Recording started.
Talk show. Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 505. My name is Eric Nilsson, and with me today, I have my co-host, Corey Romero. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. We are on YouTube as well as TalkShoe. So if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to give us a subscribe there at the subscribe button, and away we go. Corey Romero, how's it going today?
Doing well, doing well. As you can see, if you're live and you're watching the video feed, I'm on the beach here, hanging out. Looks like I'm in Hawaii in my Zoom meeting. So things are well, things are great.
Very nice, very nice. And also we have Tony Foster, who's on camera as well. Tony, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Eric. Hanging out in the Big Bang set.
Sweet, awesome. It is great to be working from home. We are slowly getting our set up. And I also have to say, welcome Manib Mahazuddin. He is Vice President of Solutions and Product Marketing at VMware. And we're going to be talking about business continuity solutions on the show today. Manib, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Eric.
Last time we did the show, I think you were in our studio, and now we have all transitioned to this work from home environment, and we're all, making it happen.
Yeah, we're in, interesting times. I think it is just, I think first and foremost, I'm hoping everybody is safe and healthy and maintaining your social distance. The world is it's in a difficult place now. Hundreds of countries, as the numbers have gone up to hundreds of thousands of people impacted. So the first and foremost goal is to make sure you're all safe and, in your house and looking after your families.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to see the transition that we've all had to go through as a world population to kind of slow the spread of the virus. And certainly podcasters and video people have been doing their part, staying at home, and you watching the different podcasters, their sets evolve, where when they first started the first week, everybody was in pajamas with the camera, no makeup, no nothing. It looked pretty raw, right? But over time, people are starting to work on sets. To your point, you turn on a light, you get some forward-facing light on you. Everybody is starting to adjust to this, getting their virtual sets, and so we're all in this together. So it's an interesting thing to watch us transition. Before we get to the business continuity topic, though, let's just do a little bit of the news. In the news, big is we're announcing another live stream where it's a launch. It's a second follow-up launch announcement that we've got that you can go add to your calendar, and it is the vSphere launch. So everybody's been asking us, when is vSphere going to be GA'd? And we always say we can't tell you. We can only tell you when we can tell you. But we know it's going to be this quarter. And so on April 2nd, there will be, it's kind of like Fight Club. There will be a launch, and it will be on April 2nd. You can go to VMware.com's homepage and sign up for the April 2nd live stream, where we're going to be talking about vSphere 7, its availability, as well as drilling down into some of the features. I know Pat's going to be talking about it. So where we did the cloud native launch and we talked about Project Pacific in vSphere, most of that launched vehicle was actually dedicated towards Project Pacific. Yeah, and Tanzu Cloud Native. Now, this new one on April 2nd will be talking just about vSphere. So I would highly recommend everybody go to VMware.com and click on the add to your calendar and come by on April 2nd and listen to Pat talk about vSphere with some other people. I think it's going to be a great thing to pay attention to. So that's in the news. We should, obviously talk about that and make sure that everybody is aware of it. We're going to be running social. Also, we have the vExpert blogs. Corey, a lot of those vExpert blogs we have were targeted at vSphere. So there's probably like 30 vSphere blogs that we're going to be using as part of that launch material as well, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Lots. I think there was a total of 47 blogs that came out of all the announcements. But yeah, right. Very high amount on vSphere.
Right. So I know last week we did, with Bill Plankers, podcast number 504, we talked all about vSphere 7 and the core list of features that are there, some of my favorites we talked about. So if you haven't heard about vSphere 7, go back and listen to Bob talk about some of the great features that are there. And then obviously come listen to the launch. And I'm really excited about vSphere 7. I think my favorite feature is the being able to use the HTML5 GUI, click around on things, and have it write all the code for you, whether it be Python, Go, or Power CLI. I just still find that amazing. So I'm going to get vSphere 7 up in my home lab and start playing with that. Maybe push a bunch of fun scripts out. I could see where I could go crazy with Python, doing that. So fun. So Corey, before we get to the show, final thing, color of the bay. I think you're relaxing at the bay. What say you of the color of the bay behind you there?
It's a nice teal. It's a nice teal. You can see a few people not practicing social distancing in the water as they're swimming around. But I have heard ocean water is okay. It kind of fights that off. Lungs are under the water, I think.
Under the water, nothing grows under the water. That's really nice. Gotta say, I thought you lived in Utah, but clearly that ocean looks a lot nicer than the ocean here around San Francisco. It has been warming up. We did get a lot of rain the last couple of weeks, so it has been raining off and on the last few days. So the mountains got a lot of snow. So we're happy we're going to have water for probably the rest of the summer, which is, a nice thing. We always have to look at the nice things that are happening as well. We did get a lot of water. So the color of the bay in the Bay Area is kind of like a dark green, right? It's sunny and nice, but it's still a little bit winter and choppy. So we're not out of winter yet, and a lot of water, a lot of rain, a lot of clouds. So we're in winter. All right, with that, we have the vSphere launch. We've got everybody working from home. So let's get on to business continuity solutions. So Manib, we always like to, as a community podcast, have you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about how long you've been at VMware and what does your career look like, and then we'll move on.
Sure. I've been with VMware for about coming up to 80 years. And, I started actually in the field. I used to be based in Sydney, Australia. And, I moved to the Bay Area about 3 years ago, and I took on this role of, solutions and product marketing. And the goal has been to, bring a lot of our products into, solutions that, customers require. So my team's responsible for all the cloud marketing, security solutions, Workspace One solutions that we put out to the marketplace, where we have to work across a multiple of our products to bring a solution that is customers are facing to the market.
Nice. And you've been on the show before, so many of our listeners have heard you before, seen you if you've been watching the video stream. So it's great to have you back. Let's talk a little bit about where the industry seems to be on business continuity, right? And I know the coronavirus has shifted everybody home, but I feel like there was already a teetering kind of where people were learning about Zoom, learning about working from home. Laptops have been on the rise. Workstation desktops have been slowly declining. Why don't you give us a set of where the industry is when it comes to this space?
It's actually quite an interesting question, Eric. I think a lot of the I would say the technology workers, we're ready. A lot of us are, road warriors. We had our, laptops and your mobile phones. I think the speed with which VMware ourselves could pivot to a work from home environment, because now almost 100%, like 95% north of our employees are all working remotely. But it just didn't take us anything. It just happened overnight because we're all on Workspace one already. We were able to kind of quickly pivot and get everybody going. We take a lot of that kind of for granted in the tech industry, where probably the most affected are the non-tech folks who are not, who go into the office, they have their, machines they log on to and they do work, and then suddenly being asked to, do work from home. Be it, state government or education or, folks where they were not prepared, right? So what kind of took them by surprise as the shift to remote working was happening more so in the corporate world, and, we take, laptops for granted and stuff. A lot of day-to-day businesses were not ready for this, right? So what kind of hit them hard was, and as VMware or large corporations would have a comprehensive business continuity plan. They'd be like, I've got a plan. I know I have a certain kind of set resources set up, disaster recovery set up for my infrastructure. I can put it into motion. And when such incidents come really fast, the spread of the virus is taken on. It goes so fast in a week or so, right? So it comes rapidly at you. Then they start implementing their business continuity plans, right? But a lot of day-to-day folks don't have such plans, right? So they're probably the most impacted, and they're trying to kind of deal with how do I suddenly take my entire workforce and get them provide some type of services remotely from home.
Yeah, I could see where there's support centers, big support centers that do online telemarketing, sales centers, all these type of stuff where you typically would go to office, bank processing, clearance houses, all these type of industries where you have people come into big buildings and sit on floors doing this work, and you have fairly complex compute environments sitting on that desk to run those apps to make that happen. And just shifting it at home, it's easy for us in the tech industry because we write code is on GitHub. It's a straightforward thing, where when you start talking about these custom apps, some of them very highly secure, data that you don't want streaming across the network, it's a different challenge.
It is. I think that's kind of putting the pressure on multiple things. The first, ask, and I especially when you say industries. Now, having said all the corporate and different pieces, I probably want to call out the healthcare industry, because they're kind of going through enormous pressure to, they are probably the heroes of the situation, because they suddenly need to have a whole they're standing up, mobile hospitals, or,
Oh yeah,
in public schools or stadiums, and they suddenly need all the connectivity. They suddenly need all the information about him, um, medical records, everything coming there in remote locations. So they're having to start up, huge infrastructure. And more importantly, if you want to differentiate, you got the frontline medical workers who have to be in touch or in close proximity of the affected folks, but folks who schedule stuff, folks who sit at the reception, who look after all the administration, they're leveraging some of our technologies that they don't actually have to be in the front line and be directly exposed. They're using our tool sets to do all of that work remotely from their house. And the good emails, it's just, we're all working super hard to make our our customers have a business continuity. But I remember, like, last weekend, I was 6 hours of sleep in 72 hours trying to get, a lot of customers kind of scaled up and support in this situation last weekend. And when I was doing that, within 6 hours or 7 hours, we started getting thank you emails from a lot of these, healthcare workers to say, if I didn't have this, I couldn't log on and administer all these resources, create, care facilities remotely and schedule these, because I'm an admin worker in a healthcare facility. I don't have to go in. I can do it from home. I feel safe. I'm not exposed to all of that, right? So
that's an interesting point. From my small role in IT, I think of working from home, but really what you're highlighting is business continuity, is expansion, scalability, dynamic change of where things are running, how they're running, how you're expanding or contracting given services at given locations. It gets pretty complicated.
Yeah, no, I think given that human element, the way we're seeing the technology adoption evolve, right? So the first ask of most of folks who are reaching out to us is, how can I get my employees working from home? How can you deliver? How should I respond? Actually, a lot of the questions I actually didn't have a plan. So do you have any guidance on what is the prescriptive approach I should take to respond to this situation? And you were giving some simple guidelines for, like, hey, create some communication. You want to have access, put out an internal site and an external site. So, all your employees can access, create access for everybody from everywhere. First step. Second step, assess your infrastructures, assess your capacities, both on back-end hosting of applications and the workloads, front end laptops or clients or virtual desktops. So assess capacity. If you're running short of capacity, guess what? See how you can get creative. Now, third, the natural step is do you have capacity on-prem, or do you want to, you don't have enough capacity? Then how do I also get services and, from bursting into the clouds, or, how do I kind of scale my capacity if I don't have capacity? Because again, supply chain to buy hardware, install, rack and stack, it takes too much time, and physically nobody's going in a data center, right? Everybody wants to do it remotely. So how can you burst into the cloud for extra capacity? So you can then expose all your applications and services on these portals that people can use from everywhere. Now, finally, as you go through the process of communications, evaluation of your capacity, and then build a capacity, expansion plan, now you think about scaling security. It's like, okay, I can do it for a few folks. How do I scale and make sure that I have a collaborative platform that everybody works on? So we've seen these like 4 or 5 steps people take, and try to help them through that journey. Now, each of the step has obviously a VMware technology solution that we can help them with, but we've seen that evolution go from Workspace 1, I want immediate access. Now I don't have enough data center capacity to host my VDI, then I want to burst into either VMware Cloud and AWS, or I want to go into Azure VMware Solutions because it's Horizon Cloud. I want to go into that. Now that's a natural thing. Now suddenly, as people are firing up VDIs or these new devices, are they secure? What's gone up in the last 3 weeks is a huge amount of phishing attacks. Now everybody's hungry to learn about COVID. So they're opening emails that, obviously from everybody that's informing them, especially if they're faked as coming from CDC or WHO and all of those. So people are curious, so they'll open it as if it's my local council can informing me, or local city informing me about my county informing me. So there's a lot of phishing attacks, and you don't have your corporate laptops. You spun up a VDI instance in your home PC, right? And you think it's not compromised. So security, so Carbon Black is actually coming into a nice play to kind of say, how do I secure this fast deployed endpoints everywhere, which are not kind of corporate endpoints, corporate verified. So, and then finally, as entire families are working in the house, we're having this conversation. How do I prioritize this traffic against my kids watching Netflix? So people are getting this contention of traffic and bandwidth constraints and not being able to prioritize, right? So both, if you are, like you said, Eric, before, call center operators working from home, you're doing real business calls and voice or IP. So we put some SD-WAN kind of off, like we see Velo Cloud solutions coming, which prioritize it. We've done arrangements with AT&T and the telcos, basically to kind of provide these capabilities to our users to, automatically prioritize their business traffic.
Yeah, wow. Let me unpack a little of that first.
Yeah, I threw a lot out there.
It's fine. I have most of it in my head. I'm getting good at this work from home in my head kind of scenario. One, repurposing hardware. So one of the challenges we hit right away is like, hey, I have to spin up some additional things for people in different places. Workspace 1 obviously runs on VMware infrastructure. Do you see people thinking that, well, I have compute capacity in my data center that's virtualized. I should be able to run new VMDKs or whatever that have different payloads and balance where I'm spinning up some workload, where I'm losing other workload. Do you see anybody looking at that as a potential solution?
They are. I think they're optimizing where, they're trying to optimize capacity, right? So they were like, hey, okay, if I had everybody at work and I had a certain kind of element of, things that I did at work, and, if I have to spin up more people are spinning up more web services and digital services. So there's more and more kind of web-based workloads and digital workloads that are going up. And if I had, I had scheduled some, I'm seeing this, and you could kind of have feedback on this. People who were planning to do massive kind of infrastructure migration efforts, or refactor applications and stuff like that, they're kind of going, well, I think if I had to go in physically to kind of restart a server or something, I do my testing, I write my code, I'm not going to do that, right? So
Right.
people are kind of prioritizing and deprioritizing certain elements to say, I could gain some capacity back because I could come back to it in 6 weeks or 8 weeks, because, again, the biggest unknown that everybody is this situation where, we're sitting in front of a nice beach in Utah, or, working from home from my basement, is it going to last for the next 3 weeks or 6 weeks or 3 months or 6 months. It's a little bit of an unknown. Hopefully we all want to get out of it fast. So people are right now focused on, let's get business as usual going, business continuity going. And, I may come back to 6 weeks later or some other projects, but, hopefully that's back in person and when I'm in office, right? So those decisions are still being evaluated.
Tony Foster, I know that you live in this space. You have lived in VDI land and virtual desktops and all that. What's your thoughts on all of this? I don't know. We're not hearing you.
It helps if you
Mute.
turn off the mute option.
Yep.
It's been an absolute explosion for VDI. I've seen requests coming in left and right on different aspects of VDI. I've had friends who work for small companies here in Kansas call me up and go, Tony, do you have any extra computers around that we can use so that we can give our workers a desktop of some sort, whether it be a virtual desktop or a physical system? Anything will help because they're all trying to protect their workers. And so it has just been an absolute explosion in the space. One of the things I think is awesome that NVIDIA has done here, they just announced it yesterday formally, was they opened up their licensing so you could request demo licenses of up to 500 users so that you can give graphics intensive desktops to those users that need the GPU capabilities. Those workers who couldn't work from home here a few years ago now can actually work from home and not have to be bound to a desk in an office and either exposing or being exposed to different things.
All right. Thanks. Good to know. I know you live in that space, and from the perspective of on the street, it's just nice to see what's actually happening. So Manid, back to you. That now we start to identify resources. You have the play between cloud and your own resources, and then I think cloud. I'm wondering, are the cloud providers capable of scaling? I even look at Zoom and some of the scale they need to handle just to grow. Do we think the cloud providers are in a position to be able to handle the workload?
Yeah, I think we are, I'm sure we're going to test out, right? Again, based on how long this plays out, I think to kind of go on Tony's point as well is, infrastructure, how much you can get hold of. For a minute, if I was to say our cousins at Dell are, seeing a huge kind of volume ask of, Dell clients, their laptop, being shipped directly. And, the type of requests they're getting is from, again, state government, federal government request is, or here's the home addresses of X amount of employees. Can you directly ship? Yeah, right. Here's just the home addresses. Can you load up our standard operating environment or workspace and ship them to these home addresses so we can keep it going, right? So people are getting creative on getting used infrastructure or sourcing new, but also reaching out and saying, hey, I need these. But to your point, I know, Tony, you brought, hey, NVIDIA we've got a few licenses. We put out a whole bunch of offers ourselves last week. And, our offers, we put a slew of options. It's a lot of free education for people to learn. If you're home and you want to learn about our technology, there are at least 5 or 6 education offers. But from a technology perspective across, Workspace ONE, Carbon Black, and, all the technologies, I highlighted as SD-WAN, is we offer 2 things. Existing customers, we thank you. We want to, make sure you're doing okay in this situation. We will let you burst, your licenses. You don't have to. We will provision before you give us a PO, right? So you will have a need. We will give you licenses, and let's talk about it in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. When you're ready, then we can do this. So that's the right thing for VMware to do.
That's right.
To offer for existing customers that, hey, you have remote resource needs, you have all of this, go, we're a software company, we just let you scale existing customers. Now, new customers who haven't used our technologies, then we've given 90-day trials, so people can try our technology for free. And if you want to go deploy this really ASAP, then we'll help you kind of get that deployed as well. So we put these, product offers out, but we also support, we're giving you our technology is not like soup, right? I just don't download a client and it works. We're also giving you professional services and support. Our customer experience team is working 24/7 helping customers do this, because those are we almost put 12 offers out there. But our intention is the right intention to just support our existing customers and any new customers who want to leverage this technology. So, on the offer side, just backing up on what Tony said, I think we're seeing a lot of vendors do that. Rule the cloud providers, something we're working on is also, we did the VMware cloud and AWS offer along with AWS. We are working on Windows desktops, virtual desktops with Microsoft as well to do it. So we are partnering with the big providers. I do believe they'll have scale to support it. And the real question there, Eric, is how long is this situation, right? You can temporary burst capacity, which we go for a few months, but the reality will be that yes, we may have this wave of remote workers, and we may all go back to work, but the way we work in the future may change significantly because
this is going to be sticky. There's going to be some part of it that's going to be sticky, and the way we reinvent how we work and how we do it. It's like if you do it 30 times in a row, it becomes no longer just something you're trying. It becomes a habit. So we'll see some of that, which I think is naturally going to happen. I had a question. What was my question? The question was, I hate when that happens, right? So we have security. We can move on to security. I'm sure I'll come back to that question over time. So we definitely have carbon black. Oh, I know what it's less of a question, but it was a statement that I think we all recognize that, you're here. We're not doing this because just we want to sell more product. This was about really trying to help and getting in front of our customers' need to accomplish, right, and to meet their business objectives, because there's real things they're trying to do, right? So even though we talk about our products, I feel like Pat, and he has a statement up on this website, it really is coming from a good place of just trying to help. And it comes back to your, hey, look, expand the licenses, do what you have to do to meet your needs right now, because we're just in uncharted water. And this is really important. Some of these things have life and death consequences.
Yeah, like nobody planned for this. I think the reality is, if you knew this was coming and you had several months to plan for it, I think you would plan for it. Nobody planned for this. So I think the right thing for a lot of us to do is just offer support. I think, you forget yes, you got a business, you got to maintain that. I'm seeing local businesses here, right? So we're being in shelter in place for a dozen week or so, but how tight people's cash flow is. And people not working, or businesses not running for a week, they're just really in a bad situation, right? So so the best thing we can do is really support them. And it doesn't matter what the size of the company is, it doesn't really matter. And everybody comes to work and has to get done, and personally they're going to so much, right? So you could have a partner who is in the medical industry, and those the medical professionals are working 24/7. I have a niece in Germany, and she is in pharmaceutical research. Guess what? She's been working, burning midnight oil, kind of find out the right kind of, how can we, have the right, antidote for this thing. And they're all burning, everybody has a personal story. That is, and the least we can do is offer support to our customers, right?
Right, and customers are doing this. So let's talk about VMware. We've talked about the products, whether it be Workspace ONE, Carbon Black, VDI, a bunch of different solutions that are getting desktops where they need to be. Right. What other components are you seeing that customers have to worry about? And I guess I'll just say this to the experts too. Much like Tony, the experts are really powerful consultants, right? They're working in the industry, they're making recommendations. I'm sure they're getting called in as well. So from that standpoint of what other things are people needing to worry about right now, and what are some of the if you can think of any, then what are the ways we're trying to help people get that message out?
No, I think Yeah, go ahead. I think
we had cloud. We talked about cloud. We talked about Workspace One. Tony mentioned VDI. We talked about security that comes with that. We talked about capacity with the cloud versus your own.
and SD-WAN because people just want to get SD-WAN capacity, and I think the SD-WAN requirements without getting any customer names is as people stand up these makeshift hospitals and in public schools, and they that edge needs suddenly capacity, right? So they can't build up huge infrastructure. So we have a lot of requests from a lot of medical facilities for SD-WAN capabilities. So we've done a couple of things. We've kind of yes, here's existing customers will ship free equipment to you, so you can kind of do that. But also we're doing offers, or we're working in partnership with AT&T. So if you're AT&T, then you don't have to do anything. We will accelerate your traffic. And again, in the back end, as more and more desktops come up, we're putting load balancers. This is the AVI network load balancer, right? So when that you're running out of capacity in your data center to host a VDI, then the bursting or the redirection happens automatically. So as you get a new Horizon client request, then AVI load balancer is kind of saying you're out of capacity in your data center. I'm going to burst that out into either your Amazon or your Azure cloud. So technology architecture wise, it is kind of business continuity starting from remote working to scaling your infrastructure across the cloud in your data center, and then doing your load balancing and connectivity so that you again want the same performance of your business application, all of that in a secure way, right? So I think that's the evolution we're seeing right now. And I would say this may evolve again based on how long the situation is going for. The other interesting trend, again, technology is we're as from our kind of cloud health portfolio, right? So cloud health portfolio, we manage about 25% of public cloud infrastructure. So we're seeing interesting patterns. That's so cloud health, if you're not aware, they manage about 12 billion plus public cloud infrastructure spend. So we're seeing spend patterns. This is purely on native clouds, right? Amazon or Google or Azure, all of them. We're seeing interesting spend patterns change. People provisioning different type of workloads, different things, and so we're observing that. Within a few weeks, we will share that data to say in the last 6 weeks, see the shift in patterns. I'm sure a lot of people saw the NASA pictures where they showed the drop in nitrogen and drop in carbon emissions for the first 2 months from China. We want to see that public cloud infrastructure spend of what's being spun up and spun out, at least from Cloud Health Dashboard, right? To say 25% of public cloud infrastructure spend, we saw all these different patterns of spend happen. Right.
Yeah, we that's an interesting point, which is gonna impact us. It's maybe day 2, not day 1, but we've had this conversation. People are like, "Oh, you should buy Zoom, the video conferencing system we're using," and tons of people are using this platform now. It's based on a Palo Alto family that here in the Bay Area, so we know of them. So we talk about that, but the reality is, do you know if they're making money? Because if you look at the infrastructure they have to spin up to do additional volume, we've had use cases where companies look at their AWS bill at the end of it and they're like, this is great, we met the demand, but we just lost $50 million without even knowing we did this. So there is a cost element to day 2 that, especially when we haven't started talking about the stickiness of this trend, but if this trend bleeds over into the way we begin to do our work, right, those financial impacts could become long-term, which could be a problem, or you have to at least get that insight to be able to know how to architect things so that you're not architecting yourself out of business.
Absolutely. No. So, the day 1 is get more, people working, business continuity, business as usual. How can you scale? The day 2 is really about, looking at the infrastructure patterns. Are you optimizing for that? Because obviously in the short term, everybody's like, we got to make sure business is going, because if business is not going, everything is impacted. But come day 2, then you start looking at, where's my right place for my infrastructure? Did I do the right thing? Did I spin it up in the right place? How do I optimize it? Have I got enough, troubleshooting capabilities, et cetera, right? So I think definitely the day 2 aspect, where everybody's at right now, at least, here in the United States. And, I was talking to my, our colleagues in Asia, because, I spent a lot of time there. they went through that in, in China and, some of these markets, and what learnings can we get from them, right? So how did they react, and how did they do, and what did they do? And so we're learning from, other global marketplaces as to what happened. And, what we're seeing here is the first wave of just get remote access, get Zoom calls, get collaboration, get everybody, do their job. And then will come is to say, well, I need to get some business critical apps now. This situation is going to last for 2 months, right? I gave you connectivity. You could get your productivity tools, and you got your, communications tools, unified collaboration as a service, your SharePoint, etc. Now I really got to give you some business critical applications. Then where are they? Do I need to scale them? Do I need to migrate them to a cloud? So I think the day 2 scale of operations, we haven't come across yet, right? So I think we're in this first phase, at least in the United States, where we just want to make sure there's connectivity and people can get on and access their work environments effectively from anywhere. And as that becomes the norm, then you get into the day 2 is, have I got the optimized infrastructure? Have I got the right, operational dashboards? Have I got the same? SLAs are probably, not the top thing in mind in folks, and people understand, right? So, but that will start getting inbuilt as we go, and it all, time will say, right? But it's just hope the situation doesn't last for too long. But I think you got to be prepared for everything. And as you said, coming out of this, people will put a plan. We'll have a business continuity plan. People don't want to be impacted like this in the future, because reality would be that the economy is not going to look great when we come out of it, right? So, putting a good plan in the future will actually help us for that too.
Right. It's interesting to see if there's going to be cost savings, enough cost savings. Now we get into the strategy stickiness part of the way we're working now, and there are going to be winners and losers in hey, this works really well, this saved resources, we can do this, we can continue this way, versus implementing business connectivity continuity practices. Some of these might stay, they might not, but I have a feeling that everyone now is going to reevaluate, are we going to see one of these 2 years from now? What do I need to put in place that will allow me to just seamlessly switch from one model to the other model? Which model do I need to keep in at what place?
Yeah, nobody planned for globalization of viruses, to be honest, right? So
yeah. Right. Absolutely. And we're looking at, it's interesting you mentioned the Asia, response. And I know that Hong Kong and Singapore have done a really nice job, and yet they've turned back on business. We in the US, we haven't really turned on, people leaving their houses and engaging like they normally would. And so that our economy is impacted. But over time, they're turning it back on, and maybe you're going to wear more masks. Maybe you're going to be a little bit more cautious on how many real-time engagements you're going to have versus online engagements. But it will turn back on, and there are lessons that we can learn from compute patterns coming out of these countries where they've already been living with MERS and SARS in the past. So some of them already kind of understood what they needed during these events.
No, I think they have had some experience with that, right? I think that just proves out that since 2002 or 2003, since SARS came and MERS in 2008, the level of globalization has just scaled heavily in 2020, right? I think it's just, yes, there was a lot of people traveling, but a lot of people travel now. I think a lot of the spread is because of that. But, I think as a global organization, we have, a huge amount of VMware employees in all those locations. And, I know we were asking them about kind of how do they keep, how did businesses go around? And, I think it was, so we have a lot of learnings of that. And yeah.
I have another question, which is, how is VMware doing? You talk about our system engineers and support staff being available to our customer base. How are we doing at this?
No, I think, as I mentioned, almost 100% of, VMware employees are remote, right? I think, and
well, I think they're home. The question is, are we actually getting work done at home for our customers?
They are. So I think, our technologies have always been, it's like, there's pretty elaborate, there's nobody physically showing up at a customer site, right? So the blessing for us is our technologies, when we offer up 24/7 support, GSS and professional services and advisories, is the good thing is, we can do a lot of that work remotely from home, right? So a lot of that exists. The part we haven't come across is obviously physical infrastructure upgrades and stuff like that, right? So where we're operating today is, spinning up virtual desktops. We can do that. We can, set it up in, cloud. We can do all of those remotely from home. So a lot of the tool sets, I think, VMware on VMware is probably a big hero story where the VMware IT team has responded. And we responded so fast, right? Like we responded so super fast that I think, the blessing was we always use our own technology. So using our technology, how fast we can pivot on this. We actually did a nice, interview with Basque, our CIO, and what contingencies he had in place, and how that came into effect, and how fast were we able to kind of pivot. And as kind of Pat puts it, is we're able to pivot on a dime and shift a lot of this because I just believe that we had our technologies that we use. So all for support staff, they're remotely locked down. They're kind of having a lot more engaged customer conversations, supporting a lot of our customers can evaluate and expand their kind of capabilities remotely from home, right? I think that's perfect, right? I think that's great.
Yeah, and we have been talking about the transition to digital for a couple of years now, right? And building your digital infrastructure to transition to digital. And you got to imagine that this is going to move people further along faster on this journey of digitalization, just because it plays well to have your company, capable of operating this way.
Yeah, no, I think it will force, right? So imagine now in a position where, yes, I had an old Windows 32-bit application that I was able to wrap around and expose it and put it on Workspace ONE. Now my remote users can access it. Now, if you hadn't done that work, then you're kind of stuck because you can't expose this application without the desktop, right, component of it, right? So a lot of that kind of attention will go into, yes, I got collaboration productivity applications going, but I truly need to think about how I modernize my legacy applications so that they're accessed through digital technology. And, all of that puts a lot of pressure and, a lot of kind of planning for coming out of this, where people stop thinking about their business critical apps. How do they modernize them? Modernize using containers, or, and also then how do you digitize them? How do I package them and I put it into Workspace ONE catalog so everybody can access it? All of that, there's an impending event that will come out of it, right? Right now, people are just get me access, right? But when I can't get access, why can't I get access to these applications? Because they're not modern.
Right. So to transition, as we come up to the last few 10 minutes of the podcast, I always like to talk about how would people engage. So if we have the experts, or we have other people that have some customers that they're starting to look at, and whether it's short term, day one, or it's longer term, where do people go get information? Are you guys? I know we're transitioning to online type of environments to train people. What's the best way for the 2,000 of the experts that now are getting flooded like Tony Foster start to pick up on this? Because we have a lot of people that maybe aren't trained on desktop virtualization. We have a lot of core virtualization guys that are running compute or storage. So what's the best way to engage, to start learning about what's needed out there? Do we have a business continuity website on VMware.com?
Yeah.
What's the best way to start getting involved here?
Yeah, we stood up in my kind of 72 hours. I had one of the things I did was stand up a business continuity page with all the offers that people can go and read. Basically that's Pat's message about what we're doing is right up there. What capabilities we're seeing, that putting a business continuity plan together is there. To your point, where people don't know, and that's where a lot of our education offers are. Saying, hey, you get a free education. You can go free voucher for on-demand education, and because like you said, you can go and do free education. Where do you want to learn? So all those offers are also on the if you just Google business continuity solutions, actually, VMware is right there on the first page, right? So we have got good responses. We brought these components together. We launched it last Sunday, and by Wednesday, Thursday, we had good. IDC had evaluated every vendor's response and put VMware's response as one of the best responses, etc. So it's not to say, look, I think we've thought through this, we've shared our information, and we didn't go and educate any analyst or anybody. It's just, people are looking at what kind of responses, every vendor is giving, and our response has been, uh, according to analyst communities, a good one, tech for good, which is what we honestly believe, and, the right thing for our customers, right? So all of that information is on the business continuity side.
Yeah, it is actually an interesting point that you make too, which is on one of my Facebook feeds, it came across that Isaac Newton worked from home during the plague and discovered gravity, right? So even if you aren't setting up business continuity for customers, this is a good moment to, you get some time to be sequestered at home, maybe 3 or 4 weeks here, to actually get online, do some online training and learn about this, because this is going to be a wave of the future. And this is like a block of time. And I try to tell my kids that, if you were told that you get like a 4-week Christmas break in the middle of March, they would be doing high fives, running around happy that they have all this time off. And I think from a life perspective, even though we're working, we do have some downtime. This is a good time to upgrade your skills on what the digital land of the future is going to be, business continuity, Workspace ONE. How are we doing this? And you take some of this downtime and educate yourself and come up to speed on a lot of this technology, because I think it's here to stay. I don't see this going backwards.
No, not at all. I think again, I think reinforcing that, the most important thing is, I think you stay safe, you stay healthy, and I think the commute has gone down from wherever you are. From for me, it's from my basement to the room upstairs. So you have a lot of time back that you're not spending in the commute, and it's a quality time for you to do things. I think learn things, and I think a lot of the digital media podcasts like these, or we did one last week. We're doing weekly webinars and stuff with the end user team that Sean Bass and Brian Madden ran last weekend, and which is very educational. We're just saying, hey, it was a high demand. I'm not sure how many of you can attended that, but there's a lot of feedback on that, because all we did, Eric, to your point, we're just educating. We're not saying, hey, we've got solutions, etc. Like, what did we do? How did we kind of get across this? How were we able to pivot? Let's go teach you guys about this, and you go and learn from those. We have every week a whole bunch of webinars that are freely broadcasted, so you can learn on those webinars. All of them are posted on the business continuity side. So.
Yeah, so that business continuity site is a great place to go use as a book for learning. And I kind of just imagine, I look at through and I go, yeah, the networking piece, I haven't spent time with the networking piece, but I it's one of these things where now, yeah, everything's gone online. I have to deal with how many services are being managed through my networks, and the network load has jumped. I have to worry about attacks. There's a lot of things that I didn't have to worry about before that I'm also starting to worry about in my own domain. So yeah, there's plenty of nice content that you can learn, and if nothing else, just learning the network piece of it to be able to manage my network loads is going to be a good thing. Even if I don't really have any serious business continuity, it's being able to learn new modern technology for managing network load that has completely shifted in a 3-week period. Yeah, absolutely. Tony, Corey, any last questions for Manu before we let him go on to do his day job?
Yeah, I've got one. Hey, what about setting up a vExpert session, kind of a deep dive into this for the vExperts?
Oh, that'd be awesome. So we could, get into.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Yeah.
Great. I'll reach out to you, and we can set up half-hour meeting and talk about how we can set it up. That'd be great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, we've got a lot of reference architectures we're kind of defining through this. Connected. A lot of good technical implementation stuff coming out of it. We should. Yeah, happy to do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. That sounds great. Thank you.
All right, Tony Foster, any last words from you? And what is that backdrop?
That backdrop is the barbecue, because we are on YouTube on vBarbecue, so
there you go.
You gotta finish out the podcast appropriately.
All right, well, we'll finish it out with some barbecue here in a second. Manib, thanks a lot for joining us yet again, and thanks for doing all the hard work that you're doing. I know you've been working harder than I have, right? Like I've heard the stories, and it's like you're the 6-hour sleep guy. So I appreciate it, because there's a lot of customers who are trying to do a lot of cool things right now and respond to important activities.
No, I think the least we could do, right? If you think about the medical profession, they've got a lot going on. The least we can do to contribute to the society is this thing, right? So,
Right.
all right.
All right. And with that, we'll transition to Tony Foster and the barbecue report. We got like a minute or two left. So, Tony, I know you did some barbecue. You got the barbecue behind you. What do you got going?
So this weekend I did smoked pork chops, which turned out really good. Hoping to do some sausages or something next couple of days, and then I have no idea what I'm doing this weekend.
Well, I know
open to suggestions.
I know that we for a week or two it was kind of grocery store is the only way you got out of the house, right? And so we put on rubber gloves and went and got some nice pork loins, and you can get some nice big pieces of meat, and that lasts like a day or two, right? If you do a nice barbecue, and the seasoning will keep the meat tasty it actually gets better the next day or two in the fridge.
Yes.
So yeah, we did some pork loins that were pretty good, and we did some jerk chicken so far. I would say that we should call this the Corona 15, because I swear I've put on 15 pounds since being at home, because you're just home with your family, and everybody's cooking. So that's like, not that that's a significant problem for us. There's a lot of other problems we have to worry about than putting on some extra weight. But that's good barbecue, and we will hopefully get some videos up of some barbecues on the YouTube channel just for fun. So there you go.
Yes, I will try my best.
Manib, Corey, Tony, thanks a lot for being here. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week, productive. And I'm not going to say stay safe anymore. I'm going to say stay sane, because you're working on your mental health. Worry about that.
Thanks for having us.
Very much so.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, great. Have a great week. Talk to you guys next week.
Later.